Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are doing an 8-team PPR mock draft from the 7th overall spot on fantasypros.com. We are going to be drafting in this video up against Yahoo pre-draft rankings, so it's basically like we're doing a Yahoo mock draft, but it is up against the computer on fantasypros.com. The reason why I'm doing this is because if you enter an 8-team Yahoo mock draft right now, it goes by so fast, and I feel as though I can't really get my thoughts straight in that kind of a video where the draft is just running so fast, where I can't really give a full explanation into all of my picks, as well as my thoughts on the draft going around me, as well as my overall draft strategy for an 8-team league. So I think here, when we're drafting up against the computer, we could slow down a little bit, and I can really explain a lot into my thought process, and it will be similar to what we see happen on an actual Yahoo fantasy football mock draft for an 8-team league. Down below in the comments, you guys can request what type of mock draft you guys want to be seeing. I'm trying to help every single person out. So we did a 12-team draft the other day, a 10-team yesterday, and this is an 8-team mock draft. Going to be doing many more every single day of August. So in this draft, we are drafting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. Now, in an 8-team league, I personally believe the best settings is to have at least 2 flexes or 3 wide receivers instead of 2 wide receivers, because while every single team is still going to be stacked, it really does kind of up the skill of an 8-team league if you have 2 flexes or 3 wide receivers. If you do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below if you are new to my YouTube channel, because not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. While you're down there, please make sure that you hit that like button as well to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to let you guys know that I write articles every single day on Awesemo.com about fantasy football. So if you guys enjoy reading written content, please make sure that you check that out in the pinned comment or in the link in the description. So the draft begins on Fantasy Pros. Basically, this is a Yahoo mock draft. Like I was saying, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, and Ezekiel Elliott. The first round is going to be a majority of the time damn near all running backs in an 8-team league. Even though running backs are much more deep in an 8-team league, the running backs just come at a very high priority, because eventually they do start to fall off after the first couple of rounds of an 8-team draft. So people are going to go ahead and snag them early. Normally there's going to be, in a 12-team league, like 2 or 3 non-running backs inside the first round. Sometimes in an 8-team league, the whole fucking first round is going to end up being just running backs. So McCaffrey, Cook, Henry, Alvin Kamara, Jonathan Taylor, and Ezekiel Elliott. Nothing weird out of the first 4 picks, but then we see Jonathan Taylor come off the board at pick number 5. Jonathan Taylor's quarterback right now could miss up to 2 to 9 weeks. Reports today, Quentin Nelson, offensive tackle of the team, going to have a similar surgery to Carson Wentz, going to be out a similar time range, which is very, very bad. So some people will argue that, hey, Jonathan Taylor will still be fine without Carson Wentz, and I can somewhat understand that argument. But now, with Quentin Nelson hurt, this offensive line is going to be taking a beating now. That is their best offensive lineman. This is still one of the best offensive lines in the league, but it's going to take a hit with that injury. So Jonathan Taylor, to me, just cannot be considered to be drafted inside of the first round. I did a whole breakdown on that in the video from earlier today if you guys want to hear about that. So we're looking at the board right here at the 7th overall spot. Looking at the players still available, we're going to go ahead and hide the drafted players. Looking at running back, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones. Wide receiver, obviously, all of them are available. And at tight end, all of them are available as well. Now, in an 8-team league, I put a whole lot of importance into the tight end position, because I believe if I have Travis Kelce, if I have Darren Waller, then I have an extreme positional advantage up against my opponents. In an 8-team league, basically, like I said earlier on in the video, every single team is going to be stacked. Every single team is going to have great running backs, they're going to have great wide receivers, they're going to have a great quarterback, but not every team is going to have one of those elite tight ends where you can get a very strong positional advantage, is having a tight end like Travis Kelce or Darren Waller on your roster. Now, I am going to be taking a risk right here by not drafting Travis Kelce at the 107. It is entirely possible that he could be getting drafted here, but I predict, hopefully, that he falls to me inside of the 2nd round. So I'm going to go ahead here and take the best running back available, because like I was saying, even if the running backs are a lot deeper technically in an 8-team league, I still want to get a guy that I feel very confident in having an excellent season in 2021. Now, the question is, do you want to be safe or are you willing to take more of a risk? Because if you want to be safe, then in my opinion, you take Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler at this pick. I think either of those running backs can easily finish inside of the top 5 at the end of the season. Austin Eckler, obviously one of the most talented pass-catching running backs in the National Football League. One of the only running backs, in my opinion, that can get 1,000 rushing yards as well as 1,000 receiving yards. Aaron Jones, he's on the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is back. It is going to be chef's kiss of an offense. So Aaron Jones should be great, but Saquon Barkley, he's the more risky of the group because of the fact that Joe Judge is talking about how, hey, maybe they're going to limit his touches early on in the season. Now, my personal belief on that is even if they do that, even if they limit the touches for Saquon Barkley early on, what happens week 1 if they limit his touches, he looks good, and the Giants get absolutely bent over and smoked by another team? You know what they're going to do week 2? They're going to roll Saquon Barkley out there in full force because the goal of Joe Judge and this New York Football Giants team is to win football games. And you want to know how you win football games? With Saquon Barkley on the field. So I'm perfectly fine taking Saquon Barkley here at the 107. If you are a little bit more cautious, you can draft Austin Eckler or Aaron Jones. I would be perfectly fine with that as well. So we're going to go with Saquon Barkley here at the 107. Boom, we got Saquon Barkley here onto the roster. After we drafted Saquon Barkley, we can see that, let's click on the draft board here. We can see that Nick Chubb and Tyreek Hill came off of the board. I think as we get closer to real fantasy drafts in late August or early September when you guys are drafting, that Davante Adams will eventually cement himself as the locked and loaded wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. I love the upside of Tyreek Hill, but the immense amount of safety that Davante Adams brings at the wide receiver position, being such a big red zone threat in Green Bay, just being the guy in Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers is going to be feeding game in and game out without injury to him or without injury to Aaron Rodgers. It's pretty obvious that Davante Adams is going to be a top 3 wide receiver, if not the number 1 overall wide receiver for fantasy football in 2021. So we did end up seeing all 8 running backs go in the first round, which isn't all that wild in reality when you think about it, because in a 12-team league, sometimes the first 8 picks of the draft are a running back. So looking at the board right here, to me, it is very clear that we need to draft tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce. While it would be nice to have an Austin Eckler or an Aaron Jones to pair with my Saquon Barkley, or maybe take a Davante Adams, you have an elite running back, you have an elite wide receiver, but in my opinion, like I was saying, we need to get that positional advantage at tight end, and I'm not all that sure that when we come back in the 3rd round, because there is a nice loop coming our way, we have to wait a bit to pick, that maybe Darren Waller will get selected inside of the 3rd round. That would not be all that surprising, so I want to make sure that I get that tight end that I feel like could be the tight end number 1 and should be the tight end number 1 at the end of the season, to go ahead and lock and load that positional advantage at tight end with tight end Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. I genuinely believe in 8-team leagues, drafting that tight end early is the single best strategy in order to win your league, to gain that extreme positional advantage. Some may argue that drafting a quarterback early on in an 8-team league is also very advantageous. I'm not as sure about that, but I do understand that it definitely is a positional advantage to get one of those top tier quarterbacks, but I don't think it's anywhere near as important as getting that top tier tight end, because it's pretty difficult in a lot of years to find that late round tight end. I'm going to be talking about that a lot on my channel, because that's where I normally look to draft, to try to find those late round dart throws that can end up being top 5, but we know Travis Kelce is a top 5 tight end, probably going to finish inside of the top 2 and likely going to be number 1. After Travis Kelce came Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs, Antonio Gibson, Calvin Ridley, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, AJ Brown starting the 3rd round, followed by Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Najee Harris, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I've noticed in a lot of Yahoo drafts, which is what we are drafting up against their average draft position right now, their pre-draft rankings, that Davante Adams falls a lot more than he does on other websites, so that is definitely pretty interesting, at least in my opinion. So the 3rd round is really when the wide receivers start to come off the board. A couple come off in the 2nd round, but after the 2nd round, people aren't as confident in the running backs. Najee Harris, I like. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I like, but am I as confident in a Najee Harris as I am with Austin Eckler? No. Am I as confident with the Clyde Edwards-Helaire as I am with Antonio Gibson or Aaron Jones? No, I'm still pretty confident in them, but I don't feel like it's a complete lock that they're going to be a top 10 back, whereas I feel as though those other running backs that I talked about, I genuinely feel as though are going to be top 10 running backs. So looking at the board right now, Chris Carson, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, all available at the running back position. Wide receiver, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin. At tight end, Darren Waller did end up falling to us. So the question at hand now has to be, what team would have been better? Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, and Darren Waller, or Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelce, and whoever we end up picking here? So let me know down below in the comments which you would prefer. Typically, I would lean with the Darren Waller decision, but that is because there was no real way in knowing that Darren Waller would have even fallen into the third round at this pick, so I think we did actually make the right decision, but obviously most people are going to lean with the other stack because of having those two elite running backs. So running back, DeAndre Swift, Chris Carson, not really ultra in love with those guys as a third round pick. Looking at wide receivers, I am very much against DK Metcalf in fantasy football this season. I think he's going to be fine and finish as a top 10 wide receiver, but talks of being top 6, top 5 to me are a little bit ludicrous. So looking at the other wide receivers, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Robert Woods, I like those guys a bit more than I like DK Metcalf. So here, I'm going to go ahead and draft Keenan Allen or Allen Robinson. It's really a pick your poison. Those should be two of the more consistent wide receivers in the National Football League. Allen Robinson has been dominant year in and year out, regardless of the team he has been on. With the Jacksonville Jaguars, this guy was making defenses look silly with Blake Bortles throwing him the ball. Last year, he did it with Kiss and Titties Trubisky. He did it with 9-inch Nick Foles, so he can do it with any quarterback, so you shouldn't really be worried at all about if it's Andy Dalton or if it is going to end up being Justin Fields. Keenan Allen obviously should be great with Justin Herbert, so it's really a pick your poison there. I'm going to lean with Keenan Allen, but it is basically a coin flip in my opinion. Would I be mad if I took Allen Robinson? No. Would I be fine taking Keenan Allen here? Yes, and that is where we're going to lean here with Keenan Allen, but again, it's not super definitive here which wide receiver I would be taking. So after we went with Keenan Allen, we're about to be back up on the board here, and we did end up seeing a wide receiver come off the board as well as Darren Waller, DK Metcalf, and Darren Waller going at the 3-4 turn. So we are back up on the board here, and we are going to continue to probably build a dominant wide receiver core at this turn and snag Allen Robinson. Since there are 2 flexes, and since I believe most 8-team leagues should be 2 flexes or 3 wide receivers, I like to load up on these wide receivers, and I'm going to go ahead and I just talked him up about how he is an elite wide receiver regardless of the quarterback play. I believe the Chicago Bears offense is going to look a lot better this season, and Allen Robinson is a target monster in Chicago. I believe he will be that yet again in 2021, so I'm very excited to get him here inside of the 4th round with my 26th overall pick in this draft. After I went with Keenan Allen and Allen Robinson, we see Terry McLaurin come off the board, followed by CeeDee Lamb, David Montgomery, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, Julio Jones, Miles Sanders, and Patrick Mahomes. Now, depending on your league, Patrick Mahomes can actually go anywhere in the range from the 1st to the 5th round in an 8-team league. Some people will be like, I need to get that quarterback. They draft him in the 1st round. Would I do that? No, because I genuinely believe if you draft a quarterback early, your running back depth will be completely kind of screwed by that. Obviously, Mahomes in the 5th round is a pretty solid option when you already have Zeke, you already have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you already have Aaron Jones, and you already have Terry McLaurin. So I think that is a pretty solid pick there. But again, it can really go in any range. And typically, once Mahomes comes off the board, that's when all hell breaks loose. Because now Mahomes off the board, so someone's going to be like, oh man, I'm not going to get my quarterback. And then bada bing, bada boom, you see Dak come off the board, you see Kyler come off the board, you see Lamar come off the board in any type of order, Josh Allen. So that is typically what happens. We'll see if that's what happens in this draft. If you guys have ended up enjoying through the first 5 rounds of the draft, please make sure that you guys do end up hitting that subscribe button down below if you are new. And if you're not new, please make sure that you hit that like button down below. Make sure you leave a comment as well. It really helps me out. So looking at the draft board here, we do have 2 wide receivers. We have a tight end and we have a running back. So we could go either way here. I do feel very confident in Chris Carson potentially finishing as a top 12 running back in 2021. So I will take him here. I do think that this is kind of a wide receiver zone where I'm not ultra in love with anyone. Any wide receiver aside from Deontay Johnson. I like DJ Moore. I like Cooper Kupp, but I'm not super excited to be drafting them. But at running back, I am very much locked in on Chris Carson, so I will be taking him here inside the 5th round. I know a lot of people will have arguments against Chris Carson. Oh, he's an injury-prone running back. Injury-prone. Sure, he's yet to play a 16-game season in his NFL career, but if you look at it, can we pull up his stats for his whole career? 12 games, 15 games, 14 games. It's not like he's missing and then 4 games, obviously, his rookie season, but that's not as much based upon injury. So please do not worry about drafting Chris Carson. Even if he plays 15 games, you're getting him here, or 14 games, you're getting him here inside of the 5th round as a top 12 potential option week in, week out, because I really do believe that this Seattle Seahawks offense is going to look to establish the run this season, look to really run the ball. Pete Carroll continues to talk about it. He continues to hate on the passing attack. He just hates on Russell Wilson for some fucking reason, it appears. So that's why Russell Wilson, I guess, was maybe throwing that fit in the offseason, talking about maybe leaving the Seattle Seahawks, probably because he wants to actually throw the ball, but Pete Carroll doesn't give a fuck about that. He wants to run the football. So Chris Carson inside the 5th round is a great steal. After that, we see DeAndre Swift, followed by Cooper Kupp. So we already have our 2 running backs. We got our 2 wide receivers. So the question here is, do we want to build our flex up first with a running back or a wide receiver? And personally, I believe Deontay Johnson is the best pick here because I believe his ceiling is a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. I think he could finish the highest out of anyone available on the board right now. That is because Deontay Johnson is, in my opinion, and the opinion of Big Ben Roethlisberger, at least from last season, the #1 target in this offense. I understand that Deontay Johnson has a case of the drops. He always fucking drops the ball, and I understand this is a team that's going to at least try to run the ball a little bit more in 2021, but even if they try to run the ball slightly more, the offensive line isn't the greatest. They're going to be stuck in shotgun a lot of this time, and Big Ben is just addicted to throwing the ball Deontay Johnson's way. Even when Deontay Johnson was dropping the football left and right, Big Ben still looked to him as his right-hand man and was feeding him the ball all game long. He is a must-own wide receiver, in my opinion. If he somehow mitigates the amount of drops that he had last season, this guy genuinely does have top 10 potential in what should be a very solid passing offense in 2021 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. While Big Ben obviously isn't the Big Ben of the past, he is still relatively solid. So I'm pretty excited to get him here inside of the 6th round. After we went ahead and drafted Deontay Johnson, came DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, Adam Thielen, Brandon Ayuk, Darrell Henderson, Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, Lamar Jackson, T.J. Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, Kyler Murray, and Kenny Golladay. Where Kyle Pitts goes in drafts is super interesting to me. I talked about him earlier in today's video from earlier today about my bus in every round video. Right now, based upon ADP, Kyle Pitts is like a 4th round pick in 12-team leagues. And to me, I'm not really willing to pay that price for him to be a top 4 tight end when all of the numbers of the past, all of the analytics point against rookie tight ends finishing inside the top 5. In the last 10 seasons in the National Football League, 1 tight end has done that, finished inside the top 5 at tight end as a rookie, and that was Evan Ingram. Kyle Pitts obviously can do it. Inside of the 7th round, I'm fine doing it. But when he goes up there very close to Darren Waller and George Kittle, I genuinely believe that is a mistake. Kenny Golladay coming off the board. Now, not to make you worry, Kenny Golladay was hobbled in practice today. There are not yet, as I'm recording this, any reports available that are saying that it was a hamstring injury. That is what it looked like. Now, if it is a hamstring injury, they're just going to sit him out, and then he's going to be good to go for week 1 probably. So it's not really all that big of a worry, but it is something that did end up happening. Also today in Giants camp, there was apparently an all-out fucking brawl because of Corey Clement running into someone. Someone flipped out. Evan Ingram pushed someone. Someone else pushed Evan Ingram over. There was a huge fucking pile, and Daniel Jones ended up at the bottom of it like he was Jon Snow in Game of Thrones and had to get his way out of there. It was crazy. It was honestly hilarious to read. Football is officially back when you see reports like that. So I hope you guys do end up enjoying this video thus far. So looking at the board right here, we do have 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end as well. Now, normally my mindset in fantasy drafts is that you want to draft more running backs than wide receivers. Now, in an 8-team league, you can definitely not do that because the running backs available on the waiver wire are not going to be anywhere near as bad in a 10 or 12-team league. I still would advise drafting more running backs than wide receivers because in an 8-team league, you're going to be able to find a wide receiver off the waiver wire that you can play every single week that could drop 15 or 20 points. But at running back, it's a little bit easier, but it's pretty hard to find a running back that you want to start off the waiver wire, so that's why I really like to load up on running backs. Looking at the board right now in the 7th round of me, there are 2 running backs that just come to my mind every time in this 20 to 25 range at the running back position, and that's Myles Gaskin or Mike Davis. Both of these running backs, to me, have top 12 potential in 2021. Myles Gaskin, when he was the guy in Miami last season, was exactly that, a top 12 running back. And the exact same thing can be said last year about Mike Davis in Carolina when McCaffrey was hurt. When he was the guy, he was a top 12 running back. Now Mike Davis is in Atlanta. I believe he is going to be getting a whole lot of usage in this offense as the workhorse running back. Myles Gaskin, I believe, is the lead back in Miami. I think he's going to do big things. All the reports out of training camp. I'm a Dolphins fan, so I pay very close attention to the Dolphins training camp. Gaskin is looking very good. Very good. Not surprising. He should look good. Going into last season, no one talked about him because they had Matt Breida ahead of him, Jordan Howard. They thought he was just not going to be doing anything, and I believe the same thing, even as a Dolphins fan. But Myles Gaskin emerged like my cock in the morning, and I believe that Myles Gaskin will be the pick here inside the 7th round. But if you went with Mike Davis, I'm not even going to argue with you because I love drafting him here inside of the 7th round here in 8-team drafts. So now that we have Myles Gaskin, we should probably look to build more wide receivers unless Mike Davis falls to us inside of the next round. Then we're going to pick him, and then we're just going to go on a selection spree at the wide receiver position to go ahead and get those high upside shots. So after we went with Myles Gaskin, T. Higgins came off the board, followed by Dak Prescott. So here, I'm definitely going to be going with running back Mike Davis. You could go quarterback, but we are past that range where I really like the quarterbacks. We're outside of the top 5. Now we're into the Russell Wilson. We're into the Aaron Rodgers, the Justin Herbert. I like those quarterbacks, but I'm not 100% sold in on Russ. I like Rodgers. I like Herbert. But again, I'd rather just wait a couple more rounds, draft Joe Burrow, draft Matthew Stafford, who did get hurt in practice yesterday with his finger, which doesn't sound great. Not the greatest thing to be hearing out of camp, but I still think he should be fine. But obviously, we could hear more things later on, which will make it seem a lot worse. So we are going to go ahead here and take Mike Davis and then go on a long spree of just not drafting running backs. Mike Davis, like I'm saying, the Atlanta Falcons running back, workhorse running back, in my opinion, on this team. There's really no one behind him that should even be sniffing any carries. So I think Mike Davis is by far and away the best back on this team. And this could be a team that really likes to dump the football off to Mike Davis, and he's a very talented pass-catching back. He was basically Christian McCaffrey last year when McCaffrey was gone. Obviously, not as skilled as Christian McCaffrey because McCaffrey is the best running back in the National Football League, in my opinion. Maybe not, right? Maybe you'll say Derrick Henry is or Saquon Barkley. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL, so I do believe that there's a reason why Mike Davis was behind Christian McCaffrey. It's because Christian McCaffrey is so good. But now that he's freed there, he's a great pass-catching running back, pretty big, pretty yoked of a guy, pretty thick, I would say, with multiple C's, so I like Mike Davis here in Atlanta. After I went with Mike Davis came Odell Beckham Jr., Travis Etienne, Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kareem Hunt, Trey Sermon, Robbie Anderson, Chase Claypool, and DJ Chark. Looking at those picks, the only one that I really dislike is Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns. I've talked about this ad nauseum. This is a team that loves to run the football, so why are you drafting their wide receivers this early? I don't get it, especially Odell, who hasn't looked good in the last couple of years, at least in my opinion, and the stats say so as well. So looking at the board right now, we're going to go with a wide receiver, and we're taking some high upside shots now at this point. We're going to go with Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, with the news that Cortland Sutton is not looking the greatest, that he's looking a bit sluggish, and that Jerry Jeudy is looking very good in training camp. That should bode quite well for Jerry Jeudy, even if the quarterback play there with Horsecock, Drew Lock, or Teddy Bridgewater isn't the best. I'm very excited to get Jerry Jeudy onto this team. I think Tyler Boyd is being pretty underlooked for the Cincinnati Bengals, but he, to me, is the clear third option on this team. But if they are passing the ball as much as I believe they will, I think that he's pretty much worth a pick in the later rounds of the draft. Looking at the draft board, after we went with Jerry Jeudy, Chase Edmonds came off the board, followed by Damian Harris. So we're going to go with a quarterback here at this point because one fell that I really like. That's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder yet again. The MVP from last season, the reigning MVP, is coming back for vengeance in Green Bay. Will he be back in 2022? Probably not, but who gives a fuck, because he's going to lead this team to an NFC championship in which they are probably going to lose again. But guess what? Fantasy football doesn't happen in the real playoffs. It happens during the regular season, and Aaron Rodgers is the king in the regular season. Now, obviously, Aaron Jones doesn't have much rushing upside, and a lot of people hunt for those rushing upside quarterbacks. They talk about the Konami quarterback code, about how quarterbacks that rush the ball are cheat codes. You want to know what else is a cheat code? A quarterback that is one of the best quarterbacks of all time that you can draft inside of the 10th round, who, while he doesn't have that rushing upside, is going to stand in the pocket and pick apart a fucking defense all game long. He is going to dissect that defense like he's in a middle school fucking lab, or a high school lab, I guess. I don't know. When did you guys do those science experiments in school? Was that in high school? Was that in middle school? Because I don't think I ever dissected a frog in my life, but every single show when I was a kid, like the Disney shows, everyone was dissecting frogs in fucking science class. Ned's Declassified on Nickelodeon, all that stuff. They all did that. I never did that once in my life. So let me know down below. Did you guys dissect frogs, or is that just some type of urban legend that happens on the television? So we're going to go with Aaron Rodgers, though. That had nothing to do with anything. I do like Aaron Rodgers a lot this year, and I think he does have top 5 potential yet again, and he is getting drafted far outside of that as the quarterback number 7, ranked right now on Fantasy Pros. So after we went ahead and drafted Mr. Discount Double Check Aaron Rodgers, we see Deebo Samuel come off the board, followed by Brandon Cooks, Javonte Williams, Leonard Fournette, Will Fuller, James Robinson, Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, Raheem Mostert, Hollywood Brown, Ronald Jones, and Melvin Gordon. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 bench spots left, and a defense and a kicker. I do urge you guys to wait on defense, to wait on kickers in your fantasy drafts, because you can just stream both positions. Normally, I don't stream a kicker. I just draft one, and as long as they're not complete and utter dog shit, I just stick with them the whole season. But at defense, I'm looking to stream these matchups. I'm trying to see what's a bad opponent week 1 that may turn the ball over, maybe getting sacked, and then I draft that defense. And then week 2, if they don't have another good matchup, I take them, I throw them to the waiver wire, and pick up a new defense. I make videos every single week on which defenses to be picking up, so make sure you guys do follow for that. And in a couple of weeks, or probably by next week, I will have done the research to know exactly which defenses I want to be drafting this year based upon their week 1 opponents. Inside of the last round, I don't reach on defenses. I do kind of think it is somewhat acceptable to reach on a kicker, but not reach in the 8th round to draft Justin Tucker or Young Ho Koo or something. But I think in the 12th, 13th round, if you reach up and draft a kicker, that's perfectly fine, because they're going to be in your lineup every single week. But otherwise, I think it's kind of crazy if you draft them way earlier than that. So looking at the board right now, wide receiver Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, Devontae Smith, Laviska Shenault. Michael Thomas, the question now is, in an 8-team league, with my team already being so stacked, I genuinely think I can draft Michael Thomas. Now, he could be missing some serious time in the season, so we may not have him for, say, half the season. That is entirely possible. But for those other half of the games where he is the clear wide receiver 1 in this team, there's really no competition around him. When he was the leading NFL receiver in 2019, the guy was so dominant. He could easily do it again in 2020. He's coming at this, or he's not going to easily be able to lead the league, right? That's fucking impossible if he's going to miss half the games, but he could be up there on a per game basis. So I think Michael Thomas is a very attractive pick here inside of the 11th round. Even though he's injured, you might call me crazy. You might say it's stupid to draft an injured player, but I think with how stacked the team already is, especially in an 8-team league, I'm pretty confident taking the risk on Michael Thomas here, even if he was to end up somehow missing half the season. Now, he does have bye week 6, so in my opinion, again, I'm not a doctor, maybe they clear him earlier than this, but if he's good to go week 5, I think they just sit him down. Week 6, he's resting on the bye week, and then in week number 7, he comes out following the bye. That would be my best guess on Michael Thomas, but we should know more on that timetable, just like we will with Carson Wentz. As the offseason goes along, as we get closer to late August or early September. Now, the Fantasy Pros telling me that that was a slight reach, but to me, I don't really think it was a reach, and Michael Thomas is a guy that you can put into your IR spot if your leagues have that, so you can put him on the IR right after the draft, and then you go on the waiver wire, and you just pick someone new up, and they can sit on your bench, and you can actually use them. So I think that is not all that bad of a strategy, and I'm perfectly fine drafting Michael Thomas. Now, looking at running backs, to me, there is a very distinct fall off after one of these running backs, and that is Michael Carter of the New York Football Giants. While I do like Tevin Coleman as a nice late round dart throw, and I wrote him up on awesemo.com as a must draft late round target, Michael Carter clearly right now has a stranglehold over this backfield. He is looking like the best running back on this team according to all the beat reporters. He's going with the number one, the first team in this offense. So it seems like all signs are pointing towards greatness for Michael Carter. I think his ADP is going to continue to rise as the rookie hype gets stronger. Rookie hype always gets very strong around this time, and their ADP starts flying to the fucking moon. But I'm happy drafting Michael Carter here very late. Don't think he should be available here by the time you're drafting in later August. I know a lot of people dog on drafting earlier on. While I don't think that it's super advantageous, there are some advantages. Like, if you feel like Michael Carter's good, and you could have gotten him in, like, the 14th round a couple of months ago, then your team is going to be sitting pretty. Obviously, injuries do happen. That's the biggest argument, and the reason why most people draft later on in August. But I do think that people hating on people for drafting early is a little bit stupid, because that's where you can really get some extreme value and at your later round picks, because you will have a better idea over your opponents if you do a lot of research on what these guys should end up being. But obviously the injuries do suck, and it's why everyone basically drafts in late August. So after Michael Carter comes Mark Andrews, Devontae Smith, A.J. Dillon, Tom Brady, Jarvis Landry, Kenyon Drake, Ryan Tannehill, Tyler Higbee, Antonio Brown, Matthew Stafford, Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant. Mark Andrews fell very far. Devontae Smith did end up getting hurt in practice. Shouldn't be something serious, but it will hold him out a couple of weeks of the season, so make sure that you do monitor that as we approach the actual draft season. So now looking at the board here, we're probably going to go ahead and draft another wide receiver and close out with a running back. Michael Gallup, a lot of words out of camp are that Michael Gallup is really turning heads, but to me, he's the clear number 3 behind Amari Cooper and behind CeeDee Lamb. The true number 2 in LA for the Chargers is Mike Williams, so I'd prefer to draft him here at this spot, if I'm being honest with you. Wouldn't judge, though, if you drafted Michael Gallup. That is going to be a very high-flying offense in Dallas for the Cowboys. So after we went ahead and drafted Mr. Mike Williams and Michael Carter, we see Laviska Shenault come off the board, followed by Mr. Zach Moss. So here I think we're going to go with another running back. Let's see, we got 1 running back, 2 running backs, 3 running backs, 4, 5 running backs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide receivers. So we're going to have a balanced roster, 6 running backs, 6 wide receivers. That's perfectly fine with me. And we're going to take an upside shot on James Conner, potentially beating out Chase Edmonds, or at least having enough of a defined role that he will be flex worthy on some weeks. In an 8-team league, could probably never crack the lineup unless Chase Edmonds ends up getting hurt, but that is possible, and it is definitely possible that he ends up taking the role from Chase Edmonds, because it doesn't seem like at any point in Chase Edmonds' career that Cliff Kingsbury has truly believed in him. Even when Kenyon Drake got hurt last year, it didn't seem like there was full-on belief for Chase Edmonds, and when Kenyon Drake was playing like dog shit, there didn't seem to be too much belief for Chase Edmonds. So we're going to go with a kicker first here. We're going to go with my boy, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku kicker out of Atlanta. This guy is a menace. In 2017, this guy completely sucked for the Chargers, and then out of nowhere, in 2020, this guy became a kicking monster. I love young Hoku for the Atlanta Falcons. Final pick, we're going to be going with a defense, and like I said, I haven't done the research yet on the defenses, but a couple of days I will have done that. So in a couple of mock draft videos, from now, you will be seeing my analysis on those defenses, and there will be a video as a whole on defenses to be targeting for week number 1. Colts here, because that was the defense that was ranked the highest. So we got a B-. Again, if you guys are doing your drafts on here, don't worry about the draft grade. The draft grade does not matter at all. 82 out of 100. Our team is starting quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Our running backs are Saquon Barkley and Chris Carson. Our wide receivers are Keenan Allen and Allen Robinson. Our tight end is Travis Kelce. Our flexes are Deontay Johnson and Myles Gaskin. Our defense is the Colts defense. Our kicker is my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku. My bench is comprised of Mike Davis, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Thomas, Michael Carter, Mike Williams. We got 3 fucking Mikes on this team. Mike, and James Conner to close out the team. So thank you guys all so much for watching this video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Again, not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. Have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you stay safe, and make sure you hit that like button as well. I love you guys. Stay safe as always. Goodbye.